Welcome to Sculpture Studios, working now for a company called AKQA. Now, if you're familiar with last year's Lion project, where we created the chess pieces with the lion cub as the king, this is the same lion cub character, now on his epic adventure. With this year's motivational tagline to be to start something, the sculpture in this video depicts a Cave of Wonders type entrance, with the lion's roar bursting from the rock surface. Last year's project was commissioned by Liz Smith, who since having a baby understandably has other commitments now, and has passed the project to her colleague Amelia O'Kell. After sending us the concept artwork, with the dimensions to be 3 meters wide, 3 meters long and 3 meters tall, Aden begins by blocking the mountain from polystyrene. The footprint needs to be relatively square, but as we have a little bit of free rein with this, the rock's going to be undulating around the base perimeter to break up that squareness and to give it more of a varied natural look. Rocks created from polystyrene are very much up our street nowadays, but it's nice to have a project that incorporates a few different elements as well, so this mountain will be an interesting and enjoyable job to work on. Here Chris is blocking out the overall shape using the normal knives, hot wires, nail brushes and wire brushes, and is constantly referring to the concept art so as to stay in keeping with their design. Simba. With the bulk of the blocking out done, Aden's now going over the whole piece and fine-tuning the detail. With something this large, he's sticking to wire brushes and will move down to stonemason rifflers for the more intricate areas, before sanding the whole thing down to leave a smoother surface. One of the frequent questions we're asked is how we're joining the polystyrene together, and this is a PU expanding foam. Not only is this good for joining the initial pieces together at the beginning of a project, but it's a crucial material for us to use to make any amendments if we want to reattach pieces or add additional material to the job. It's great to have a project like this in the centre of the workshop for all of us to get involved with, and it's a great bit of exercise for the mountain climbers among us. It's great to be located relatively close to London, as this allows many of our clients to pop out of the city for the afternoon and come down to the studio for a visit. Always bring biscuits if you'd like a cup of tea, and here Amelia's brought her team down with a big batch of cookie goodness. Ian Wharton will be travelling down to Cannes with the mountain and will be there to set the sculpture up on location, so it was great that he could come down to see the project in its early stages as well. It's always nice for us and for the project video to capture a client's first reaction of the work so far, and at this point this was the first time Amelia and her team had seen the project brought into the third dimension. Not only is this an effective way for the company to get a proper sense of our team and the work we do and help inspire future projects, but it's also a great photo opportunity to bring back to their office later that day. For us, the most important things are that the clients are happy and all the work's completed on time. So it was important for us at this stage to get the client's approval so we could get moving on the next step straight away. Everyone was happy with the way the build was going so far, and the team were ready to sign off the shape for fiberglassing. The next stage in the process is to cover everything with a sticky back tin foil, and this acts as a barrier between the polystyrene and the resin that's going on top. For a shape like this, where there are a lot of ins and outs, this can be quite time consuming, as we need to ensure that every inch is covered before any resin is applied on top. Even with a few people on this can take a couple of days, but once the foiling's complete, it looks a little something like this. Here we're going over with 2 ounces of glass fibre to give the surface a durable coating that's suitable for outdoor installations. Normally we'd go on a lot heavier for something that's going to be outside and possibly going to be moved and touched a lot, but as we're keeping the polystyrene form on the inside, this helps to retain that strength and so less glass fibre build-up is needed. The advantage of having a thinner layer of glass fibre and the fact we don't need to spend time and manpower removing the poly from the inside means that both of these factors result in a more cost-effective process for the client. Their request to keep this nice and heavy so that it can't be moved or blown by the wind lends itself to keeping the poly inside also. Once the glass fibre is set, we're going over the surface with an application of a flexible concrete render. Not only does this give the sculpture even more of a shell, but more importantly it removes that fibrous matte texture and provides a realistic rocky surface to start artworking onto.
Here we have the lined rock, and we're going to make the whole thing total about 300 kilos because I think they're afraid that it's going to blow away. But I'm going to try and push it. Definitely can't move it, and that's just on this floor here. And outside I think the wind will just blow around it anyway, but we will total it up to about 300 kilos. Fiberglass. And there's a concrete mix here called Drive It, and then we're adding the points back on here because the whole thing went a little bit spongy, so we're adding the points back up, and that's before we paint it all. Now it's nice and strong, as you can see that I can climb over the whole thing, so it's really it's good to climb over. It breaks down into several pieces. We've started with a central column, we've labelled them 1 to 4, and then they all match together in sequence.
Though it's difficult to move in one unit, when it's all broken down, each piece is relatively light and can be manageable by 1 or 2 people. And then they all butt up nice and neat, and then all the bolts are inserted via the tabs. For the purpose of installation and transport, you can see here how everything breaks down and will assemble again once it gets to location. This is often something that other people might not think about, that logistically this needs to be able to break down to move and be transported from site to site, and essentially made easy for Ian and his team to handle when it's down in cans. We've kept the lines broken up so as to help stay in keeping with the rocky surface, and the fiberglass tabs have had bolt holes installed so that everything can be secured in place. With the majority of the construction now complete, it's time to start on the artwork. For this we're using water-based emulsion paints, and this will adhere really well to the concrete surface. This is only going to be outside for the duration of the future Lines event, and the Drive It material will hold onto the paint really well, even if it decides to rain. The darkness of the concrete render is a perfect base layer for the paint, and we're going over this with darker layers first to emphasise the deeper areas, before Aden goes over with lighter tones to hit the high spots. This theatrical technique gives a lot more vibrance to the rock and exaggerates the undulations in the texture in the surface, making the 3D effect really stand out. It also completes that real rock look to make the whole piece feel like it's one heavy lump of stone.
What I'm doing here is I'm boring out with this tool here, and we're trying to add weight with each of these 4 sections to make it up to 300 kilos or more. So we've got these heavy scaffold bars, and each one of these weigh about 6 or 7 kilos each. We'll board out a hole without going through the front at all, by making sure that goes beyond the level of this in each case. Okay, so it doesn't interrupt with the next piece. And we're going to foam that in so the metal bars will add up the weight. And we're not going to add it to one piece because it's going to be too much weight for one fix. And we want to make sure that the people can manhandle them and put them on the trolley and move them around okay. So adding about 4 or 5 tubes to each piece should balance it out quite nicely.
Another part of the brief is to create the Start Something signage that will go alongside the line mounting. We've been given a visual of what our clients would like to be made, with their slogan and a few of their sponsor logos added to the panels. We're distressing the wood to give it the desired weathered look, and projecting the words onto the boards, which will all be hand painted. Once again, another different element to the project here that we can create by hand all in our studio. It's nice to be able to take on a whole job like this, using different materials and methods to create all the individual pieces, and the client knows that they can come to us for all the different elements to be made. Before the sculpture goes out to Cannes, we've invited Amelia and her team down to the studio so they can see the finished piece. Another photo opportunity here, and a chance for them to climb on the sculpture themselves this time, and we've instructed Ian on the assembly. All the pieces are then broken down and loaded into the lorry to make its way down to the south of France. We did a test run in our studio to work out the smallest truck that the whole mountain and sign can fit into, once again saving money for the client, this time on transportation. This project is something that's very much to our preference. Not only is it to create something that's one of a kind and can't be replicated, but also something large scale that's a real eye catcher on location. Aden loves jobs that involve a lot of carving, so this was a perfect example of a polystyrene job that Aden's really excited to take on. It was great that the team at AKQA have come back to us now for multiple projects, and we hope to work with them again in the future, perhaps even for the Future Lions project of 2017. We'd like to thank Amelia O'Kell at AKQA for being a fantastic client throughout, and getting her whole team involved on the job, and we thought the mountain was a fantastic concept and looked great on location. We'd also like to congratulate the Future Lions winners of 2016, proudly exhibiting the mountain with Ian here in Cannes. Please feel free to leave any comments below, as they're always appreciated, and hit the subscribe button for our latest videos. You can like Sculpture Studios on Facebook and follow at Aden Hynes on Twitter, and for more of our work, visit sculpturestudios.co.uk. Thank you very much for watching.